A stranger's shoulder, a missed stop, a life that shouldn't exist. When Emily Harper wakes up in a place she doesn't recognize, miles from her crumbling apartment and dead-end jobs, panic hits first. Then confusion. Then anger. The man standing in the doorway, expensive watch, calm eyes, zero explanation that makes sense, just kidnapped her off a train. Or saved her. She can't tell which. But here's what she knows. In 6 hours, she'll lose another job. In 6 days, she'll lose her apartment. And this stranger just offered her a way out she never asked for. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The 6:15 a.m. train smelled like burnt coffee and someone's leftover fast food from the night before. Emily Harper didn't care. She barely noticed anymore. Her eyes burned from another 4-hour sleep, if you could even call it that. More like collapsing into unconsciousness until the alarm screamed her back into the same grinding routine. She slumped into a window seat, third car from the front, and let her head fall back against the cold glass. Her reflection stared back at her. Dark circles, hair pulled into a messy ponytail she'd stopped caring about weeks ago. A jacket with a coffee stain on the sleeve she didn't have time to wash out. 30 years old and she looked 40. Felt 50. The train lurched forward. Emily closed her eyes. Just 15 minutes. That's all she needed. 15 minutes before the next job, the next shift, the next round of pretending she had it together when every part of her life was held together with duct tape and denial. Across from her, someone shifted in their seat. She didn't look. Didn't care. The train was always full of people. Tired people, angry people, people staring at their phones like they held the answers to questions nobody was asking. Emily had stopped looking at faces years ago. Faces meant stories, and stories meant thinking about how bad other people had it. And she didn't have the energy for that when her own life was barely functioning. Her body swayed with the train's rhythm. Forward, back, forward, back. Somewhere between the second and third stop, her head drifted sideways. She didn't mean for it to happen, didn't plan it, but exhaustion didn't ask for permission. Her temple landed on something solid, warm. Not the window. She was too far gone to care. Daniel Brooks noticed the exact moment her breathing changed. He'd been watching her since she got on, not in a creepy way, just in the way you notice someone who looks like they're about to shatter. She'd stumbled into the seat across from him, dropped her bag like it weighed 50 pounds, and closed her eyes before the train even started moving. Her hands were shaking slightly. He'd noticed that too. Now her head was on his shoulder and she was out cold. Daniel didn't move. He should have. Any normal person would have gently shifted away, woken her up, made some polite comment about personal space. But he didn't. Maybe because she looked like she needed the sleep more than he needed the comfort of his expensive suit staying unwrinkled. Maybe because something about her exhaustion felt familiar in a way he didn't want to examine too closely. He glanced down at her. Mid-30s probably. Thin in a way that didn't look intentional. More like missed meals and too much stress. Her jacket was worn at the edges, her shoes scuffed. There was a name tag pinned to her shirt, half hidden under the jacket. Emily. Customer service. Customer service. That explained the tired eyes. The train rumbled on. People got on and off. A woman with a stroller gave him a weird look. A teenager smirked. Daniel ignored them all. He'd spent enough years being stared at. Billionaire, CEO, single dad, guy who showed up on magazine covers he never asked to be on. He'd learned to tune it out. But this girl, woman, whatever, she was still asleep. Completely dead to the world. Her stop had to be coming up soon. He checked his watch. 6:47 a.m. The train slowed. Next stop, Clayton Street. He should wake her up. He knew he should. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way her fingers were curled tight around the strap of her bag, even in sleep. Like she was so used to holding on to everything that she couldn't let go even when unconscious. The doors opened. People shuffled off. The train started moving again. Daniel made a decision he didn't fully understand. He didn't wake her up. Well, Emily woke up to sunlight. Actual sunlight. Not the gray, filtered city morning kind that barely counted as light. Real sunlight. Warm, bright, streaming through a window that was way too big and way too clean to be hers. Her eyes snapped open. She was lying in a bed. A real bed. Not her futon that sagged in the middle and smelled faintly of mildew no matter how many times she Febrezed it. This bed had actual sheets, soft ones, and a comforter that wasn't from a clearance rack at a discount store. Panic hit like ice water. She sat up fast, too fast. Her head spun. Where the hell was she? The room was big. Too big. Wooden beams across the ceiling, wide windows looking out at trees? Grass? Was that a barn? No, Emily whispered. No, no, no. She threw off the comforter and scrambled out of bed. Her shoes were by the door. Someone had taken them off. Someone had carried her here, put her in this bed. Her heart hammered. Her breathing came too fast. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand. Who put it there? And checked the time. 11:23 a.m. No. Her voice cracked. No, no, no. She was supposed to be at work at 7:30. Then her other job at noon. She had bills, rent, a landlord who'd already threatened to kick her out if she was late one more time. And she was in the middle of nowhere in some stranger's house. Emily grabbed her shoes, shoved her feet into them without untying the laces, and ran for the door. Her hand shook as she twisted the handle. It opened, not locked. That was something. That was, "You're awake." She froze. The voice came from down the hall, male, calm, too calm. Emily's survival instincts kicked in. She scanned the room for something, anything, she could use as a weapon. A lamp, a chair. Nothing looked portable enough. Nothing looked... Footsteps. Coming closer. She pressed herself against the wall, heart slamming against her ribs. A man appeared in the doorway. Tall, maybe 6'1", 6'2". Dark hair, slightly messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. Jeans and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Expensive watch. Calm eyes. Too calm. "Who the hell are you?" Emily's voice came out sharper than she intended, but she didn't care. "Where am I? What did you—" "You're safe," the man said, hands up like he was approaching a spooked animal. "I know this looks bad. I know you're scared, but you're safe. I promise." "I don't know you. Your promises mean nothing." Emily's eyes darted past him, looking for an exit. "I'm leaving. Right now. Don't try to stop me." "You're 40 miles outside the city," the man said. "No phone service out here unless you're on the house Wi-Fi. No Ubers coming, no buses. If you want to leave, I'll drive you. But let me explain first." "Explain what? That you kidnapped me?" "I didn't kidnap you." "Then what do you call taking someone off a train while they're asleep and bringing them to—" She gestured wildly at the room. "Wherever this is?" The man exhaled slowly. "My name is Daniel Brooks. You fell asleep on the train. On my shoulder, actually. You missed your stop. You missed the next 3 stops. I tried to wake you up, but you were—" He paused. "You looked like you hadn't slept in days. Maybe weeks. And when the train reached the end of the line, I made a call. Maybe the wrong one. I don't know. But I brought you here instead of leaving you passed out at a train station." Emily stared at him. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." "Probably. Normal people don't just take strangers home because they're tired." "I know. So why did you?" Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Something flickered in his expression, something she couldn't read. "I don't know," he said finally. "Maybe because I know what it looks like when someone's drowning. And you looked like you were about 3 feet under." The words hit harder than they should have. Emily's jaw tightened. "I'm fine." "You fell asleep on a stranger on a train." "I was tired." "You didn't wake up for an hour and a half. Not when I tried to wake you. Not when we switched trains. Not when I carried you to my truck." "You—" Emily's voice strangled. "You carried me?" "You didn't wake up," Daniel repeated quietly. "That's not tired. That's exhausted in a way that's dangerous." Emily's hands curled into fists. She wanted to scream at him, wanted to tell him he had no right to make assumptions about her life, her choices, Her phone buzzed. She looked down at the screen. 15 missed calls, 8 voicemails, 23 texts, most of them from her boss at the gas station. The last one read, "Don't bother coming in. You're done." Emily closed her eyes, felt the air leave her lungs. Another job gone. Another gap in her rent money. Another step closer to the edge. I have a guest room, Daniel said quietly. Clean sheets. Your own bathroom. No strings. Stay one night, figure out your next move, and I'll drive you back to the city tomorrow morning. Or stay longer. Work for me. Emily's eyes snapped open. What? I need help, Daniel said. Financial management, bookkeeping, someone who can organize the mess my ranch accounts have become. You've got customer service experience, which means you can deal with chaos. And I'm guessing you're good with numbers, or you wouldn't have made it this far on whatever you're making at those jobs. You don't know anything about me. I know you're working yourself to death for people who don't appreciate it, Daniel said. I know you're scared right now and angry, and you think this is some kind of trap. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm making another bad call, but I'm offering you a real job, real pay, a place to stay while you figure things out. No charity. You work, you get paid. That's it. Emily's throat tightened. She wanted to say no, wanted to walk out the door and never look back because this was insane. People didn't do this. Strangers didn't offer you jobs and housing because you fell asleep on a train. But her bank account had $63 in it. Her rent was due in 5 days, and she'd just lost one of her 3 jobs. What's the catch? She asked. No catch. There's always a catch, Daniel smiled faintly. You're right, there is. The catch is you'll have to deal with me. I'm not easy to work for. I've got a kid who's 7 and asks a million questions. The ranch is isolated. No nightlife, no coffee shops, no Target runs. And if you steal from me or screw me over, I will find out, and you'll regret it. Emily almost laughed. Almost. That's your sales pitch? I don't do sales pitches. I do honesty. She studied him, really looked at him for the first time. He didn't look like a creep, didn't look like someone who'd hurt her. But looks didn't mean anything. She'd learned that the hard way. Still, $63. 5 days until rent. No job. 1 week, Emily said. Trial basis. I see the job, see the pay, see if this is real or some weird scam. And if I don't like it, you drive me back, no questions. Deal, Daniel said. He held out his hand. Emily looked at it for a long moment. Then, against every instinct screaming at her to run, she shook it. The ranch was bigger than Emily expected. Not mansion big, but sprawling in a way that felt intentional. The main house sat at the center, 2 stories, wraparound porch, the kind of place you'd see in a movie about people who had their lives together. Beyond it were 2 barns, an equipment shed, pastures with horses grazing, and a small cottage that Daniel explained was where his ranch hand lived. You've got money, Emily said as they walked toward the office building, a separate structure near the main house. I do, Daniel said. He didn't apologize for it. How much money? Enough that you don't need to worry about your paycheck bouncing. Emily glanced at him. That's not an answer. It's the only one you need right now. She bristled but didn't push. Not yet. The office was organized chaos. 3 monitors on a wide desk, filing cabinets that looked like they hadn't been opened in months, stacks of papers that made Emily's eye twitch, a whiteboard covered in scribbled notes, a coffee maker that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since purchase. This is where you work? Emily asked. This is where I avoid working, Daniel corrected. The actual ranch runs itself pretty well. The finances? That's where I'm drowning. Emily picked up a stack of invoices. Half of them weren't even filed by date. You're not drowning. You're already underwater. That's why I need you. She set the invoices down and turned to face him. What's the pay? $60,000 a year, salary, health insurance, housing included. You can stay in the guest room in the main house, or take the cottage if you want more space. Ralph, my ranch hand, is moving into town next month, so it'll be empty. Emily blinked. $60,000. Too low? She laughed. Actually laughed. I've been making $23,000 a year working 3 jobs. 60 sounds like a fantasy. It's real, Daniel said. And if you're good at this, if you can actually fix the disaster I've created, there's a performance bonus at the end of the year. Emily's hands shook slightly. She clasped them together so he wouldn't notice. Why me? Because you need this, Daniel said simply. And I need someone who's not going to treat this like a hobby. You work hard. I can see it. You don't give up even when you should. That's what I need. You don't know me, Emily said again. Then prove me wrong, Daniel said, or prove me right. Either way, you'll be getting paid. Emily looked around the office again, at the mess, the potential, the opportunity she never asked for but desperately needed. Okay, she said quietly. 1 week. 1 week, Daniel agreed. The first 3 days were brutal, not because the work was hard, it was. But Emily had handled worse. Brutal because she didn't trust it. Didn't trust him. Didn't trust that this wasn't going to fall apart the moment she let herself believe it was real. She worked 12-hour days, sorted invoices, built spreadsheets, tracked expenses that hadn't been tracked in months. Daniel stayed out of her way mostly, checking in once or twice a day to answer questions or bring her coffee. He didn't hover, didn't micromanage, just let her work. On the 4th day, his kid showed up. Emily was elbow-deep in tax documents when the door to the office opened and a small voice said, "Dad says you're the new money person." She looked up. A boy stood in the doorway, 7, maybe 8. Dark hair like Daniel's, bright eyes, grass-stained jeans. "That's one way to put it," Emily said. "I'm Oliver," the boy said. He walked in without being invited and climbed into the chair across from her desk. "Are you nice?" Emily blinked. "What? Are you nice?" "The last person who worked here wasn't nice. She yelled at me when I asked questions." "I don't yell at kids," Emily said. "Good." Oliver swung his legs. "Do you like horses?" "I've never been around horses." "You should meet Biscuit. He's my horse." "Well, technically he's Dad's horse, but I ride him, so he's kind of mine." Emily found herself smiling despite everything. "Biscuit?" "He's the color of a biscuit," Oliver explained, like it was obvious. "Brown and kind of golden. Dad said I could name him whatever I wanted." "That's a good name," Emily said. Oliver beamed. "I think so too." The door opened again. Daniel appeared, looking slightly frazzled. "Ollie, I told you not to bother her." "I'm not bothering her," Oliver said. "We're talking about Biscuit." "Uh-huh," Daniel looked at Emily. "Sorry, he's supposed to be doing homework." "I finished my homework," Oliver protested. "Show me." Oliver groaned but slid off the chair and trudged toward the door. He paused and looked back at Emily. "You should stay. You're nicer than the last person." Then he was gone. Daniel lingered in the doorway. "Sorry about that. He's enthusiastic." "He's fine," Emily said, and meant it. Daniel studied her for a moment. "You're good at this." "At what?" "The work. The organization. You've done more in 4 days than I managed in 4 months." Emily shrugged. "It's just spreadsheets." "It's more than that," Daniel said quietly. "And you know it." She didn't respond, didn't know how to. Daniel nodded once and left. Emily stared at the empty doorway for a long time. On the 7th day, Emily found the first irregularity. It was small, easy to miss. A payment to a consulting firm she'd never heard of, $8,500, marked as advisory services. Nothing about it seemed wrong at first glance. Consulting fees were normal for businesses this size, but Emily had been doing this long enough to notice patterns. She pulled up the last 6 months of records. Same payment, same company, same amount, every single month. $51,000, she muttered. For what? She clicked through the files, looking for contracts, invoices, anything that explained what services this company was providing. Nothing. No contract. No detailed invoices. Just the payments. Emily's stomach tightened. She pulled up the records from a year ago. Same payments. 2 years ago. Same payments. Whoever this company was, they'd been pulling $8,500 a month from the ranch for at least 3 years. Over $300,000. "What the hell?" Emily whispered. She grabbed her laptop and walked to the main house. It was late, almost 9. Oliver was probably asleep, but Daniel's office light was still on. She knocked. "Come in," Daniel called. She pushed the door open. Daniel was at his desk, paper spread out in front of him, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up and smiled faintly. "Find something interesting?" "Define interesting," Emily said. His smile faded. "What's wrong?" She set the laptop on his desk and turned it toward him. "Who's Greystone Advisory?" Daniel went very still. "Daniel," Emily said carefully, "who are they?" He didn't answer, just stared at the screen. $300,000 over 3 years, Emily continued. No contracts, no detailed invoices, just the same payment every month, like clockwork. That's not normal, that's… I know what it is, Daniel said quietly. Emily froze. You know? Yes. Then why? Because I don't have a choice, Daniel snapped. Then he closed his eyes and exhaled slowly. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have… Sit down, please. Emily sat. Daniel took off his glasses and rubbed his face. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked tired, really tired. The kind of tired that came from carrying something too heavy for too long. 5 years ago, he started, voice low, I made a mistake, a big one. The ranch was failing. My father had just died, and he'd left behind a mountain of debt I didn't know about. I was trying to save this place, keep it running, make sure Oliver had something stable after losing his mom. He stopped, swallowed hard. I made a deal I shouldn't have made, cut corners I shouldn't have cut. And it worked. The ranch survived. But someone found out. Emily's chest tightened. Greystone. His name is Marcus Hale, Daniel said. He showed up 2 years after I made that mistake, had documentation, proof, enough to destroy me if it ever went public. So he made me an offer, pay him, and he stays quiet. Don't pay him, and everything I've built falls apart. That's blackmail, Emily said. I know. So why haven't you gone to the police? Daniel laughed bitterly. Because what I did was illegal, Emily. Maybe I had good reasons. Maybe I was desperate. But it doesn't change the fact that I broke the law. If Marcus goes down, I go down with him, and Oliver loses everything. Emily stared at him. At this man who'd given her a job, a place to stay, a chance when no one else would. And all she could think was that he was drowning too, just like her, just in a different way. There has to be something we can do, she said. There isn't. There's always something. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. Why do you care? Because you took a chance on me, Emily said. And I don't walk away from people who do that. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Daniel said quietly, He's coming here next week, to collect. Then we have a week to figure this out, Emily said. Emily, I'm not saying I have a plan, she interrupted. I'm saying we have a week, and I've survived on less. Daniel exhaled slowly. Then, for the first time since she'd shown him the laptop, he smiled, just barely. You're stubborn. You have no idea, Emily said. And for the first time since she woke up in a stranger's house, she felt something other than fear. She felt ready. Emily didn't sleep that night. She sat in the guest room with her laptop, the glow of the screen the only light in the darkness. And she did what she always did when life threw her a problem she couldn't solve with hard work alone. She got creative. The files Daniel had given her access to were a mess, but they were also a map. Every payment to Marcus Hale, every transaction, every date. She pulled them all into a single spreadsheet and started looking for patterns, because there were always patterns. People who operated in the shadows thought they were invisible, but money left trails. It always did. By 3 a.m, she'd found something. The payments weren't random. They were timed. Always on the 15th of the month, always transferred from the ranch's secondary business account, the one Daniel used for equipment purchases and contractor payments. Never the main account. That was smart. Kept the payments buried in legitimate business expenses. But Marcus had gotten greedy. 3 months ago, the payment had jumped. Not by much, just $2,000. But it had stayed at that level, $10,500 instead of $8,500. Emily pulled up the records from that month. Nothing in the ranch's circumstances had changed. No new projects, no justification for a higher fee. Marcus had just decided he wanted more, and Daniel had paid it. Emily leaned back in her chair and rubbed her eyes. Her brain felt like it was running on fumes, but she couldn't stop. Not yet. She opened a new tab and started searching. Greystone Advisory, Marcus Hale. She didn't expect to find much. People who ran blackmail operations weren't usually stupid enough to have a big online presence, but she had to try. 10 minutes in, she found a business registration. Greystone Advisory, LLC. Registered in Delaware 5 years ago. Owner, Marcus Hale. Address, a P.O. box in a strip mall. Of course, Emily muttered. She kept digging, found a handful of mentions on obscure business forums. Someone asking if anyone had worked with Greystone. No responses. Another post from a different user 2 years later saying they'd hired Greystone for financial consulting and regretted it. No details. Emily screenshotted everything. Then she started looking into Marcus himself. That's when things got interesting. Marcus Hale had a LinkedIn profile. Hadn't updated it in 3 years, but it was there. Before Greystone, he'd worked at a mid-sized accounting firm in the city. Before that, he'd been a financial analyst at a corporate law office. Respectable jobs, normal jobs. Then, 5 years ago, he'd left it all and started Greystone, right around the time Daniel had made his mistake. Emily's jaw tightened. This wasn't some random opportunist who'd stumbled onto Daniel's secret. Marcus had been watching, waiting. Maybe he'd even worked with someone who knew about the ranch's financial troubles. Someone who'd pointed him in the right direction. She pulled up the old accounting firm's website, scrolled through the staff directory. Most of the names meant nothing to her. Then she saw it. Patricia Yates, senior accountant, still listed on the site. Emily's heart stuttered. Patricia Yates had been the ranch's accountant 4 years ago. Daniel had mentioned her once, in passing, when Emily asked about previous financial staff. He'd said she'd quit suddenly, no explanation, and he'd been managing things himself ever since. No way, Emily whispered. She cross-referenced the dates. Patricia had worked at the same accounting firm as Marcus. They'd overlapped for 2 years. Emily sat back, mind racing. Patricia had access to the ranch's financials. She would have known about Daniel's mistake, or at least been in a position to find out. And then she'd quit, right around the time Marcus started his little blackmail business. It wasn't proof, not the kind you could take to court, but it was a connection, and connections were leverage. Emily checked the time. 4:47 a.m. She should sleep, should let her brain rest before she did something stupid. Instead, she grabbed her phone and started drafting an email. Dumb. Daniel found her in the office at 7:30, slumped over her desk, coffee cup empty, looking like she'd been awake for a week. "Did you sleep at all?" he asked. Emily looked up, eyes bloodshot. Define sleep. "Emily, I found something," she interrupted. She spun her laptop around to face him. Marcus wasn't random. He had help. Your old accountant, Patricia Yates. She worked with him. Same firm, same time period. She quit right before Marcus showed up. That's not a coincidence. Daniel stared at the screen. His expression didn't change, but his hand tightened on the edge of the desk. "You think Patricia told him?" he said slowly. "I think she either told him or she helped him figure it out," Emily said. "Either way, Marcus didn't just stumble onto your mistake. He was pointed at it. That doesn't help us." "It does if we can prove it," Emily said. "If we can show that Marcus's entire operation is based on illegally obtained information, we might have leverage. We might be able to—" "To what?" Daniel's voice was sharp. "Go to the police? I already told you, I can't do that. What I did was illegal. It doesn't matter how Marcus found out. If this goes public, I lose everything." "Not if we handle it right." "There's no handling it right," Daniel said. "There's just damage control. And right now, the best damage control I've got is paying him and keeping him quiet." Emily stood up. "For how long? He already raised the payment once. What happens when he raises it again? What happens when 10,000 becomes 20, 30? How long before he bleeds you dry?" "I don't know," Daniel snapped. Then quieter. "I don't know." The silence stretched between them. Emily's hands curled into fists. She hated this. Hated feeling powerless. She'd spent her whole life fighting against circumstances she couldn't control, and she was so damn tired of losing. "There has to be another way," she said. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something crack in his composure. The calm, controlled exterior he wore like armor. It slipped just for a second, and underneath was exhaustion. Fear. The kind of bone-deep worry that came from trying to protect someone you loved and knowing you might fail. "I'm not brave like you," Daniel said quietly. "I can't risk it." "I'm not brave," Emily said. "I'm desperate. There's a difference." "Is there?" She didn't have an answer for that. The door to the office opened. Oliver burst in, backpack slung over one shoulder, grinning. Dad, can Emily come to my soccer game on Saturday? Please? Jake's bringing his whole family and I want... He stopped, looked between them. His smile faded. Are you fighting? No, Daniel said immediately. We're just talking. Oliver's eyes narrowed. He was 7, but he wasn't stupid. You look like you're fighting. We're not, Emily said. She forced a smile. I promise. What's this about a soccer game? Oliver's grin came back, tentative. Saturday, 10 in the morning. I'm playing forward. Dad says I'm getting really good. You are getting really good, Daniel said. But Emily's busy, Ollie. She's got work to do. I can take a break for a soccer game, chum, Emily said. She didn't know why she said it. Didn't know why she cared. But the look on Oliver's face when she agreed made something in her chest tighten. Really? Oliver asked. Really, Emily said. Oliver launched himself at her in a hug that nearly knocked her over. She froze. She wasn't used to being hugged, wasn't good at it, but she managed to pat his back awkwardly. Thanks, Emily, Oliver said, muffled against her shirt. Then he was gone, running back toward the house, yelling something about needing to practice. Emily looked at Daniel. I didn't mean to overstep. You didn't, Daniel said. His voice was softer now, tired. He likes you. He doesn't like most people. Smart kid. Daniel almost smiled. Yeah, he is. They stood there in the quiet office, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down between them. I'll keep looking, Emily said finally. For another way. I won't do anything stupid. I won't put you at risk. But I'm not giving up. Daniel nodded slowly. Okay. The next 3 days passed in a blur of spreadsheets, phone calls, and Emily quietly digging into every corner of Marcus Hale's life she could access without crossing legal lines. She wasn't a hacker, wasn't a private investigator, but she was resourceful, and she knew how to find information people didn't want found. She pulled business filings, tax records, the public ones, property records, anything that might give her a clearer picture of who Marcus was and how he operated. What she found was a man who was careful. Too careful. He had no social media presence, no photos online. His business address was a P.O. box. His home address was listed as an apartment complex in the city, but when Emily cross-referenced utility records, she found he'd only been there 6 months. Before that, a different apartment. Before that, another. He moved around, stayed invisible. Slippery bastard, Emily muttered. She was so focused on her screen she didn't hear Daniel come in until he set a sandwich down next to her laptop. You need to eat, he said. Emily blinked at the sandwich. I ate. When? She couldn't remember. Recently. Emily. Fine. She picked up the sandwich and took a bite. It was good. Turkey, avocado, some kind of fancy cheese she couldn't name. Thanks. Daniel sat down across from her. Find anything? Nothing useful, Emily admitted. He's good at covering his tracks, but I did find something weird. Weird how? He's got 3 other LLCs registered under his name, all inactive, all filed around the same time as Greystone. It's like he was testing different business names to see what stuck. Or he's got other clients, Daniel said grimly. Other people he's bleeding dry. Emily hadn't thought of that. You think he's blackmailing other people? I'd bet money on it. Then we find them, Emily said. We find his other victims and we what? Daniel leaned back in his chair. Build a case? Go to the police together? Emily, these people are in the same situation I am. They're not going to risk exposure. They might if they think they can win. Daniel shook his head. You're assuming people are brave. Most of us aren't. We're just trying to survive. Emily set down her sandwich. You keep saying you're not brave, but you took me in. You offered me a job when you didn't know me. You're raising a kid on your own and running a ranch and dealing with this Marcus situation, and you're still standing. That's not cowardice. That's necessity, Daniel said. I don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Not everyone can afford to make the right one. The words hung between them, sharp and true. Emily looked down at her laptop, at the spreadsheets and documents and dead ends. at the problem she couldn't solve with hard work alone. "I'm not giving up," she said quietly. "I know," Daniel said. "I'm starting to realize that about you." Saturday came too fast. Emily woke up early, nerves buzzing under her skin for reasons she couldn't name. It was just a kid's soccer game, nothing important, nothing that should make her anxious. But Oliver had asked her to come, and she'd said yes, and now she felt a weird pressure to show up and be, what? Supportive, normal? She didn't know how to do either of those things. She dressed in jeans and a sweater, the only non-work clothes she owned that didn't have holes in them, and met Daniel and Oliver in the driveway. "You ready?" Daniel asked. "For soccer?" Emily said. "Sure." Oliver bounced on his toes, shin guards already strapped on, cleats tied. "We're going to win. I can feel it." "That's the spirit," Daniel said. He ruffled Oliver's hair, and the kid grinned up at him with the kind of unfiltered adoration that made Emily's chest ache. The drive to the field took 20 minutes. Daniel drove. Oliver chattered nonstop from the back seat about plays and strategies and how Jake's team was good, but not that good. Emily listened, half smiling, wondering what it would have been like to have this. A parent who showed up. A childhood that included soccer games and excitement instead of just survival. The field was packed when they arrived. Parents everywhere setting up lawn chairs, carrying coolers, shouting encouragement before the game even started. Emily felt out of place immediately. "Come on," Daniel said. He led them to a spot on the sideline, spread out a blanket, and sat down like he'd done this 100 times, which he probably had. Emily sat next to him. Oliver ran off to join his team. "You okay?" Daniel asked. "Why wouldn't I be?" "You look tense." "I'm not tense." Daniel raised an eyebrow, but didn't push. The game started. Emily had never been to a kid's soccer game before. She didn't know the rules, didn't understand the positions, but she watched Oliver run across the field with determination that was way too intense for someone his age, and she found herself leaning forward, invested in a way she hadn't expected. "He's good," she said. "He works hard," Daniel said. There was pride in his voice. Quiet, but unmistakable. Halfway through the first half, Oliver got the ball. He dodged one kid, then another, and kicked it toward the goal. It sailed past the goalie and hit the back of the net. The parents on their side erupted. Daniel jumped to his feet, clapping and shouting. Emily stood too, clapping, and Oliver looked over at them, grinning so wide it looked like his face might split. He pointed at Emily, gave her a thumbs up. Something in her chest cracked wide open. After the game, Oliver's team won, 3-2. They went for ice cream. Oliver's choice. Daniel didn't argue. They sat outside a small shop in town, Emily with a scoop of vanilla she wasn't sure she even wanted, Daniel with coffee ice cream, and Oliver with something that had way too many toppings and was already dripping down his hands. "That was awesome," Oliver said, mouth full. "Did you see my goal?" "We saw it," Daniel said. "Everyone saw it. You're not exactly subtle." Oliver grinned. "Good." Emily took a small bite of her ice cream. It was good. Better than she expected. When was the last time she'd had ice cream? She couldn't remember. "You should come to all my games," Oliver said, looking at Emily. "Ollie," Daniel started. "What?" "She should. She's good luck." "I don't know about that," Emily said. "You are," Oliver insisted. "We won, didn't we?" Emily glanced at Daniel. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Maybe," she said. Oliver took that as a yes and launched into a detailed breakdown of every play in the game. Emily listened, half amused, half overwhelmed by how much energy one 7-year-old could have. By the time they got back to the ranch, it was late afternoon. Oliver ran off to play with Biscuit. Daniel and Emily stood in the driveway, the sun starting to dip toward the horizon. "Thanks for coming," Daniel said. "It was just a soccer game." "It wasn't just anything to him," Daniel said. "You being there mattered." Emily looked at him. At this man who was trying so hard to be everything for his kid while his own world was falling apart. And she realized she didn't just want to help him because he'd helped her. She wanted to help him because she cared, which was terrifying. "I meant what I said," Emily told him. "I'm not giving up. We're going to figure this out." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Emily." "No," she interrupted. "I know you're scared. I know you think there's no way out, But I've spent my whole life being told there's no way out, and I'm still here. So trust me. Please. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Just once. Okay, he said. I trust you. Marcus Hale arrived on a Tuesday. Emily saw the car pull up from the office window, a sleek black sedan, too clean, too expensive. She watched a man get out. Mid-40s, tailored suit, sunglasses, even though it was overcast. He looked exactly like she'd imagined, smooth, confident, the kind of guy who thought he was untouchable. Her stomach twisted. She grabbed her phone and texted Daniel. He's here. Daniel's reply came seconds later. Stay in the office. Like hell. Emily saved her work, closed her laptop, and walked to the main house. By the time she got there, Marcus was already inside. She could hear his voice from the hallway, smooth, casual, like he was just stopping by for coffee. Looking good, Daniel. Ranch is thriving. You've done well for yourself. Get to the point, Marcus. Daniel's voice was flat. Emily stepped into the doorway. Both men turned to look at her. Marcus's eyebrows rose. And who's this? Emily Harper, she said. Financial manager. Ah! Marcus smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. So you're the one organizing Daniel's chaos. Good for you. He needs the help. I'm aware, Emily said coolly. Marcus looked at Daniel. Bringing in outside help now. That's new. She's not outside, Daniel said. She works for me. Interesting. Marcus pulled an envelope from his jacket and set it on the table. Well, Emily, I'm sure Daniel's explained our arrangement. Simple, straightforward. I provide consulting services. He compensates me. Everyone wins. Consulting services, Emily repeated. What kind of services? Marcus's smile widened. Advice, risk management, discretion. Discretion, Emily said. That's a nice word for it. The smile faltered, just a fraction. Excuse me? Emily crossed her arms. You're not a consultant. You're a blackmailer, and you've been bleeding this ranch for 3 years. The room went silent. Marcus looked at Daniel. You told her? She figured it out, Daniel said tightly. Did she? Marcus turned back to Emily. His expression was still smooth, but there was an edge now, sharp, dangerous. And what exactly do you think you've figured out, Emily? That you're running a scam, Emily said. That you got your information from Patricia Yates, who had illegal access to this ranch's financials. That you've probably done this to other people. And that if anyone looked too close at your operation, the whole thing would fall apart. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. You're clever. I'll give you that. But you're also wrong. I have documentation. Proof of Daniel's indiscretion. Legal proof. If I wanted to, I could destroy him tomorrow. So before you start making threats, you can't back up. Maybe take a step back and think about what you're risking. I know exactly what I'm risking, Emily said. Do you? Marcus stepped closer. Because from where I'm standing, you're a broke nobody who got lucky enough to land a job, and now you're risking that job and Daniel's entire future because you think you're smarter than you are. Emily's jaw tightened. I know I'm smarter than you. Marcus's expression darkened. Daniel, get your employee under control before she says something she regrets. She doesn't work for you, Daniel said. His voice was low, but there was steel in it. And she's right. This ends. Today. Marcus turned to him slowly. Is that so? Yeah, Daniel said. It is. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Marcus picked up the envelope and slid it back into his jacket. You're making a mistake. Probably, Daniel said, but it's mine to make. Marcus looked between them. His smile was gone now, replaced by something cold. You have until the end of the month to reconsider. After that, I go public. And we'll see how brave you both feel when everything you've built is gone. He walked out without another word. The front door slammed. Emily's hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists, trying to stop it. Daniel exhaled slowly. That went well. We pissed him off, Emily said. Yeah. That was the plan, right? Was it? Daniel looked at her. Because I'm not sure I have a plan anymore. Emily's heart was pounding. Adrenaline, fear, maybe both. We have 3 weeks. To do what? To find leverage, Emily said. To find proof that he's done this to other people. To find something, anything, that makes him back down. And if we don't? Emily didn't have an answer. Daniel sank into a chair, running his hands through his hair. I shouldn't have let you do that. I should have just paid him and kept my mouth shut. No, Emily said. You did the right thing. Did I? Daniel looked up at her. Because it doesn't feel right. It feels like I just bet everything I have on a hand I can't win. Emily sat down across from him. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. That's what scares me, Daniel said quietly. If this falls apart, it's not just me who loses. It's you too. And Oliver. And I can't. His voice cracked. I can't do that to him. Emily reached across the table and grabbed his hand. He looked startled, but he didn't pull away. We're going to figure this out, she said. I don't know how yet, but we will. Daniel's fingers tightened around hers. And for the first time since Marcus walked through that door, Emily let herself believe it might be true. 3 weeks felt like 3 days. Emily barely slept. She worked 18-hour days, combing through every document, every transaction, every scrap of information she could find on Marcus Hale. Daniel tried to get her to slow down, to take breaks, but she couldn't. Every hour that passed was an hour closer to the deadline. Every minute wasted was a minute Marcus had to prepare. She started keeping a notebook, old school, pen and paper, because sometimes screens made her eyes blur and her thoughts scatter. She filled pages with timelines, connections, questions that had no answers yet. Patricia Yates, former accountant, worked with Marcus. Quit suddenly. Where is she now? Marcus's other LLCs. Inactive. Why? Other victims. How many? Who are they? The illegal decision Daniel made 5 years ago. What exactly was it? That last question nagged at her. Daniel had been vague, and she hadn't pushed. But if she was going to find a way out of this, she needed to know everything. The whole truth, not just the sanitized version. On the 5th day after Marcus's visit, she found Daniel in the barn. He was fixing a fence post, shirt sleeves rolled up, sweat on his forehead despite the cool air. Oliver was nearby, playing with Biscuit, laughing at something only 7-year-olds found hilarious. Emily waited until Oliver was out of earshot before she spoke. I need to know what you did, she said. Daniel didn't look up, just kept hammering. I told you already. You gave me the outline, Emily said. I need the details. Why? Because if we're going to beat Marcus, I need to understand what we're up against. I need to know exactly what he's holding over you. Daniel stopped hammering. He straightened, wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, and looked at her. You really want to know? Yes. He set down the hammer. Okay. But not here. They walked to the office in silence. Once inside, Daniel closed the door and sat down heavily in his chair. Emily sat across from him, notebook ready. 5 years ago, Daniel started, this ranch was failing. My dad had just died. Heart attack, unexpected. And when I went through his finances, I found out he'd been hiding debt, a lot of it. He'd taken out loans against the property trying to keep things afloat, but the land values had dropped and the banks were circling. I was looking at losing everything. Emily wrote quickly, not interrupting. I had investors interested in buying part of the land, Daniel continued. Not the whole ranch, just a section. Enough to pay off the debt and keep us going. But there were environmental regulations. The land had wetlands on it, protected areas. If I disclosed that to the investors, they'd walk. The deal would fall through. And I'd lose the ranch. Emily's pen paused. You didn't disclose it. No, Daniel said quietly. I didn't. I sold them the land. They built on it. And by the time anyone figured out there was a problem, the construction was already done. The investors got fined. The county got involved. It was a mess. But I'd already used the money to pay off the debt. The ranch was saved. And Marcus found out, Emily said. Patricia found out first, Daniel said. She was doing the books when the investors started making noise about the wetlands. She put it together. Realized I'd known and hadn't said anything. She quit a week later, didn't say why, just packed up and left. And then Marcus showed up. Daniel nodded. 2 years later, said he had documentation, proof that I'd knowingly misrepresented the land, said he could ruin me, get me sued, maybe even charged criminally. So I paid him. Emily leaned back in her chair. Her mind was already working, turning over possibilities. What happened to the investors? They settled with the county, paid the fines. They're still pissed, but they moved on. Do they know you're the reason they got fined? I don't think so, Daniel said. The county investigation focused on the environmental violation, not on who sold them the land. But if Marcus went public, they'd figure it out pretty quick. Emily tapped her pen against the notebook. So Marcus's leverage is twofold. He can expose you to the county, and he can expose you to the investors. Either way, you're screwed. Yeah, but here's the thing, Emily said slowly. Marcus's leverage only works if people believe him, if his documentation is solid, if he hasn't done anything illegal to get it. Daniel frowned. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Patricia didn't just hand over your files because she was mad at you, Emily said. Client files are confidential. If she gave them to Marcus, she broke the law. And if Marcus used illegally obtained information to blackmail you, his entire operation is built on a crime. That doesn't help me, Daniel said. Even if Marcus goes down, I still broke the law first. Maybe, Emily said. But if we can prove Marcus and Patricia conspired to blackmail you, we can argue coercion. We can make the case that you paid him under duress. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card, but it's something. Daniel looked at her like she'd just spoken a foreign language. You're serious. Dead serious. Emily, you're talking about going up against a guy who's been doing this for years. He's not going to just roll over because we threaten him with exposure. I know, Emily said. That's why we need more than threats. We need proof. Proof of what? That he's done this before, Emily said. That there are other victims. If we can find even one other person he's blackmailing, we can show a pattern. We can build a case. Daniel ran his hands through his hair. And how exactly do you plan to find these other victims? Take out an ad? Post on social media? Hey, if Marcus Hale is blackmailing you, give us a call? No, Emily said. We follow the money. She opened her laptop and pulled up the files she'd been working on. Marcus has 3 other LLCs, all registered around the same time as Greystone, all inactive now. But they weren't always inactive. I pulled the business filings. Each one was active for about 6 months, then shut down. Daniel leaned forward. So maybe he cycles through them, Emily said. Maybe he uses a different LLC for each victim, keeps things compartmentalized, harder to trace. That's a lot of maybes. It's all I've got, Emily said, unless you've got a better idea. Daniel didn't answer. Emily turned her laptop toward him. I need access to your bank records. All of them. Personal, business, everything. If Marcus is as careful as I think he is, there might be other payments we haven't found yet. Payments to these other LLCs. Daniel hesitated. I know it's invasive, Emily said. I know you don't want me poking around in your finances. But if we're going to do this, I need everything. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and handed it to her. Passwords in my notes app. You'll have access to everything. Emily took the phone. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Daniel said. We still have to survive the next 2.5 weeks. Set. Emily found it 3 days later. She was going through Daniel's personal account, the one he used for everyday expenses, when she saw it. A payment from 4 years ago, $5,000, made out to something called Apex Consulting Group, one of Marcus's other LLCs. Her heart started pounding. She cross-referenced the date. It was 6 months before the first Greystone payment, right in the window when Apex had been active. Why would Daniel pay Apex? She muttered. She pulled up the transaction details. The memo line was blank. No explanation, just the payment. Emily grabbed her phone and called Daniel. He picked up on the second ring. What's wrong? He asked. Do you remember paying a company called Apex Consulting Group 4 years ago? Emily asked. Silence. Daniel? Yeah, he said slowly. I remember. Marcus told me it was a consultation fee. Said if I paid it, he'd provide documentation that would help me if the wetlands thing ever came back up. I thought it was insurance. Turns out it was just the first payment. Emily's jaw tightened. So, he's been bleeding you for 4 years, not 3. Looks like it. Did he ever give you the documentation? No. Of course not, Emily muttered. She made a note in her notebook. Okay, this is good. This gives us a longer timeline, more transactions to trace. How is that good? Daniel asked. Because the longer his operation runs, the more mistakes he makes, Emily said. Nobody's perfect, not even Marcus. She hung up and went back to work. Over the next week, she found 2 more payments, both to different LLCs, both from Daniel's accounts. Together, they added up to over $400,000. Emily wanted to throw her laptop across the room. Instead, she kept digging. She started looking into the LLCs themselves, pulled business filings, tax documents, anything public record, and that's when she found the thread. All 3 LLCs, Apex, Greystone, and a third called Summit Advisory, had filed tax returns, and all 3 had listed the same address for their registered agent, a law office in the city. Emily's pulse quickened. She looked up the law office. Small firm, 3 partners. One of them was named Richard Carver. The name meant nothing to her. She ran a search, found his LinkedIn, corporate attorney, specialized in business formation and asset protection. Asset protection. Emily sat back in her chair. Asset protection was code for helping people hide money, offshore accounts, shell companies, things that lived in legal gray areas. If Marcus was using Richard Carver to set up his LLCs, Richard might know about the other victims. He might even have documentation. Emily grabbed her phone and called a number she hadn't used in years. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. Yeah? The voice was rough, annoyed. Tommy, it's Emily. Silence. Then, Harper? Holy shit, I thought you were dead. Not yet, Emily said. I need a favor. Tommy Reeves was a guy Emily had worked with at one of her old jobs. Gas station, graveyard shift, the kind of place where you learned to spot trouble before it walked through the door. Tommy had been decent, kept his head down, didn't ask too many questions. But he also had connections. The kind of connections that could get you information if you knew how to ask. What kind of favor? Tommy asked. I need to know about a lawyer, Emily said. Richard Carver. Works at a firm called Carver and Associates. I need to know if he's dirty. Tommy laughed. You're asking me if a lawyer's dirty. They're all dirty, Harper. I mean dirty, Emily said. Shell companies, offshore accounts, the kind of stuff that gets people in trouble. Well, why do you care? Because someone's using him to screw over people who don't deserve it, Emily said. And I need to know if there's a way to stop him. Tommy was quiet for a moment, then, I'll ask around, no promises. That's all I need. You owe me, Harper. I know. She hung up and stared at her notebook, at the growing web of connections, at the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, she was onto something. Tommy called back 2 days later. Richard Carver's a piece of work, he said without preamble. Word is he's got a side business setting up shell companies for people who want to move money without anyone noticing. Nothing illegal on the surface, but the kind of thing that makes the IRS twitchy. Does he have records? Emily asked. Probably, Tommy said. But you're not getting them. Guy's paranoid, keeps everything locked down. And he's got connections. You go after him, you better have a damn good reason. I do. Yeah, what is it? Emily hesitated, then, he's helping someone destroy a good person's life. Tommy snorted. That's half the lawyers in the city, Harper. This one's different. They always are, Tommy said. Look, I'm not saying don't try. I'm saying be careful. Carver's not the kind of guy you want as an enemy. Noted, Emily said. Thanks, Tommy. Don't thank me. Just stay alive. He hung up. Emily set down her phone and looked at Daniel, who'd been listening from across the room. So Carver's dirty, Daniel said. Sounds like it. And we still can't prove Marcus is blackmailing other people. Not yet, Emily said. But we're close. I can feel it. Daniel didn't look convinced. Again, the breakthrough came on a Tuesday, 11 days before the deadline. Emily was going through public court records, looking for lawsuits, settlements, anything involving Marcus or his LLCs, when she found it. A case from 3 years ago. A business owner named Gerald Mines had sued Apex Consulting Group for breach of contract. The case had been settled out of court. No details publicly available, but the fact that there had been a lawsuit at all was enough. Emily pulled up everything she could find on Gerald Mines, found his business, a small construction company in the city. Found his address, found his phone number. She stared at the number for a long time. Then she called. It rang 6 times. She was about to hang up when someone answered. Yeah? The voice was gruff, impatient. Mr. Mines, Emily said. Who's asking? My name is Emily Harper. I'm calling about Apex Consulting Group. The line went silent. Mr. Mines? I got nothing to say about that, he said. His voice was tight now, guarded. I'm not trying to cause trouble, Emily said quickly. Someone I know is in a situation with a man named Marcus Hale, and I think you might have been in the same situation. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Mines, please. I'm not with the police. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just trying to help someone who's being blackmailed. Another long silence. Then, you said Marcus Hale? Yes. But Gerald exhaled slowly. That son of a bitch. Emily's heart leaped. So you do know him? Yeah, I know him, Gerald said bitterly. He bled me dry for 2 years. Took almost $100,000 before I finally said enough. What did you do? I sued him, Gerald said. Took everything I had, but I sued him. And you know what? He settled, gave me back half of what he took and disappeared. Did you report him to the police? Gerald laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. With what evidence? The money I paid him was technically voluntary. I signed contracts. He covered his ass. I couldn't prove blackmail, so I dropped it. Emily's mind raced. Do you still have the contracts? The documentation? Why? Because I think Marcus is doing the same thing to other people, Emily said. And if we can prove a pattern, we might be able to stop him. Gerald was quiet for a long time. Then, I burned the contracts. Didn't want to look at them anymore. Emily's hope deflated. But, Gerald continued, I kept copies. Digital, just in case. Can I see them? Emily asked. Why should I help you? Because you said it yourself, Emily said. Marcus is a son of a bitch, and he's still out there doing this to people. If we don't stop him, he'll keep going. Gerald didn't answer right away. Emily held her breath. Finally, email me. I'll send you what I've got. But you didn't get it from me. Understood? Understood, Emily said. Thank you. She hung up and looked at Daniel, who'd gone pale. We've got him, she said. The files Gerald sent were damning. Contracts that looked legitimate on the surface, but were filled with vague language about consulting services and confidential advice. Payment schedules that lined up exactly with what Emily had found in Daniel's accounts. And buried in the fine print, clauses that essentially gave Marcus the right to demand payment indefinitely. Emily read through them twice, then a third time, making notes. This is it, she said. This is proof that Marcus has done this before, that he's got a system. Daniel leaned over her shoulder reading. It's still not proof of blackmail. Not legally, Emily admitted, but it shows intent. It shows he's running a scam. And if we can find more victims, if we can show this is a pattern, we can make a case. To who? Daniel asked. The police? A lawyer? Emily, we don't have time. We've got 10 days. I know. So what's the plan? Emily closed her laptop and looked at him. We confront Marcus. We show him what we've found. We tell him we've got Gerald's testimony, and we're not afraid to go public, and we make him back down. That's not a plan, Daniel said. That's a bluff. Then we better sell it, Emily said. She called Marcus the next morning. He answered on the third ring. Emily, what a surprise. We need to talk, Emily said. I'm listening. Not over the phone. In person. Marcus chuckled. You want to meet? How civilized? Where? Neutral ground, Emily said. The coffee shop on Main Street. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. And if I say no? Then you don't get to hear what I've found, Emily said. Silence. Then, fine, 10 a.m. But if you're wasting my time, there will be consequences. I'm not wasting your time, Emily said. She hung up before he could respond. Daniel stared at her. Are you insane? Probably, Emily said. But we're out of options. What if he calls your bluff? Then we lose, Emily said simply. But if we don't try, we've already lost. Daniel looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. Instead, he just nodded. Okay, he said. Let's do it. The coffee shop was crowded when they arrived. Emily had chosen it specifically for that reason. Lots of witnesses, lots of people around. Harder for Marcus to make a scene. They sat at a table near the window. Emily's hands were shaking, so she kept them wrapped around her coffee cup. Daniel sat next to her, calm on the surface but tense underneath. She could feel it. Marcus walked in at exactly 10. He spotted them immediately and made his way over, his expression unreadable. Emily, Daniel. He sat down without being invited. This better be good. Emily pulled out a folder, set it on the table. Gerald Mines. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. You blackmailed him for 2 years, Emily continued. Used the same playbook you're using on Daniel, and when he fought back, you settled. Paid him off to keep him quiet. That's an interesting story, Marcus said. Do you have proof? Emily slid the folder across the table. Contracts, payment records, everything. Marcus opened the folder, flipped through the pages. His jaw tightened. Where did you get these? He asked quietly. Does it matter? Emily said. Marcus looked up at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, the smooth mask slipped. Underneath was anger, cold, controlled, dangerous. You're playing a game you don't understand, he said. I understand perfectly, Emily said. You're a con artist. You target desperate people, exploit their mistakes, and bleed them dry. And you've been getting away with it because people are too scared to fight back. And you're not scared? Marcus asked. Terrified, Emily said, but I'm more angry than scared, and I'm not letting you destroy Daniel's life. Marcus sat back in his chair. He looked at Daniel. You're really going to let her do this? Throw away everything we've built? We haven't built anything, Daniel said. You've been robbing me. Marcus smiled. It was cold. Fine. You want to play hardball? Let's play. I go public with what you did, and you lose the ranch. You lose custody of your kid. You lose everything. Is that really what you want? What I want, Daniel said slowly, is for you to leave, now, today, and never come back. Or what? Marcus asked. Or we go to the police, Emily said. We show them Gerald's files. We show them the pattern. And we make sure everyone knows what you've been doing. Marcus leaned forward. You think the police will care? Gerald's settled. There's no active case. And even if they did investigate, it would take months, maybe years. I'll ruin Daniel long before that happens. Maybe, Emily said, but you'll go down too. And I don't think you want that. Marcus's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. Try me, Emily said. They stared at each other across the table. The noise of the coffee shop faded into background static. Emily's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Marcus stood up. You've got until the end of the month. After that, I'm done playing nice. He walked out. Emily watched him go, her hands still shaking. Daniel let out a breath he'd been holding. That didn't work. No, Emily said quietly. It didn't. But she wasn't done yet. Emily didn't go back to the ranch. She told Daniel to take the truck, told him she needed to walk, needed to think. He didn't argue, just looked at her with those tired eyes and drove away. She walked for an hour, maybe 2. Lost track of time somewhere between the coffee shop and the edge of town where the buildings gave way to open fields. Her mind was racing, turning over everything that had just happened, everything that hadn't worked. Marcus had called her bluff because it was a bluff. She'd walked in there with Gerald's files and a whole lot of attitude, thinking that would be enough. But it wasn't. Marcus wasn't afraid of exposure. He'd been doing this too long, had covered his tracks too well. He knew she didn't have enough to actually hurt him, but there had to be something. There always was. People like Marcus, people who thought they were untouchable. They always made mistakes, always left something behind. She just had to find it. Emily pulled out her phone and called Gerald Mines again. He answered on the first ring. Did it work? No, Emily said. He didn't care. Gerald swore. I told you, guy's a snake. You can't reason with snakes. I'm not trying to reason with him anymore, Emily said. I'm trying to bury him. You said you sued him. Who was your lawyer? Woman named Sarah Chen. Works out of a firm downtown. Why? Because lawyers keep records, Emily said. And if she represented you in a case against Marcus, She might have information we can use. She won't talk to you, Gerald said. Client privilege. I know, but maybe I don't need her to talk. Maybe I just need to know what questions to ask. Gerald was quiet for a moment. Then, you're more stubborn than I gave you credit for. I get that a lot, Emily said. She hung up and immediately searched for Sarah Chen. Found her firm's website. Small practice, 3 lawyers, specializing in business disputes. Sarah's photo showed a woman in her 40s, sharp eyes, the kind of expression that said she didn't take crap from anyone. Emily liked her already. She called the office. A receptionist answered. Chen and Associates, how can I help you? I need to speak with Sarah Chen, Emily said. It's regarding a former client, Gerald Mines. Ms. Chen is in a meeting. Can I take a message? Tell her it's about Marcus Hale, Emily said. Tell her it's urgent. The receptionist hesitated. I'll see if she's available. The line went quiet. Emily waited, heart pounding. 3 minutes later, a new voice came on. This is Sarah Chen. Ms. Chen, my name is Emily Harper. I'm calling about Marcus Hale. I don't discuss former cases, Sarah said. Her voice was crisp, professional. If Gerald sent you— He didn't, Emily interrupted. I'm not asking you to break privilege. I'm asking for advice. Advice about what? About how to stop someone from being blackmailed. Sarah was quiet. Then, come to my office. Today. 4 o'clock. I'll be there, Emily said. The line went dead. Emily stood in the middle of the sidewalk, people walking past her, and for the first time in days, she felt something close to hope. Sarah Chen's office was exactly what Emily expected. Clean, organized, no nonsense, the kind of place where things got done. Sarah herself was shorter than her photos suggested, but she had presence. She shook Emily's hand with a grip that was firm and assessing. Sit, she said. Emily sat. Sarah folded her hands on her desk. You've got 5 minutes. Make them count. Emily didn't waste time. She laid out the whole situation. Daniel's mistake 5 years ago, Marcus's blackmail, the payments, Gerald's case, the files, the confrontation at the coffee shop, everything. When she finished, Sarah leaned back in her chair. You're in over your head, she said. I know. Marcus Hale is dangerous, not physically, but legally. He knows how to operate in gray areas, how to make things look legitimate even when they're not. I know that too, Emily said. That's why I'm here. Gerald said you represented him. I'm hoping you can tell me something, anything, that might help. Sarah studied her for a long moment. I can't discuss Gerald's case, but I can tell you this. Marcus has a weakness. Emily leaned forward. What kind of weakness? He's greedy, Sarah said, and greed makes people reckless. When I was building Gerald's case, I found inconsistencies in Marcus's business filings. Nothing provable, but enough to make me think he was hiding income, possibly from the IRS. Emily's pulse quickened. Tax evasion? I didn't have enough evidence to pursue it, Sarah said, but if someone were to look closely at his records, really closely, they might find something. How would someone do that? Sarah smiled faintly. You'd need access to his accounts, his real accounts, not the ones he shows the world. And that's not easy to get. But it's possible, Emily said. Possible, yes. Legal? Sarah raised an eyebrow. That's a different question. Emily understood what she was saying, understood what she wasn't saying. If someone did find evidence of tax evasion, Emily said slowly, what would they do with it? Report it to the IRS, Sarah said, anonymously, if they were smart. The IRS doesn't care who reports it, as long as the information is solid. And if Marcus is evading taxes, they'll come down on him hard. Harder than any blackmail charge ever would. Emily's mind was already racing ahead. How much evidence would they need? Enough to show a pattern, Sarah said. Multiple unreported payments, hidden accounts, falsified records. The more you can give them, the better. And if someone found that evidence, how long would it take for the IRS to act? Sarah's expression turned serious. Months, maybe longer. The IRS doesn't move fast. Emily's hope deflated slightly. They didn't have months. They had 8 days. Sarah must have seen it on her face. But, she continued, If Marcus thought someone had reported him, if he believed the IRS was already looking into his finances, he might back off. Self-preservation is a powerful motivator. Emily looked at her. You're saying we bluff again. I'm saying you make him believe the bluff, Sarah said. Marcus is smart, but he's also paranoid. All blackmailers are. They spend so much time looking over their shoulders, they start seeing threats everywhere. If you can make him think he's already caught, he might fold. And if he doesn't? Sarah's expression softened slightly. Then your friend is in trouble, but at least you'll have tried everything. Emily stood up. Thank you. Don't thank me, Sarah said. And if anyone asks, we never had this conversation. Understood. Emily spent the next 2 days digging into Marcus's finances with a level of obsession that probably wasn't healthy. She barely ate, barely slept. Daniel tried to get her to take breaks, but she couldn't. Every hour mattered now. She pulled everything she could find on Marcus's LLC's tax returns, business filings, bank statements, or at least the ones that were publicly available. And she started building a picture. Marcus was careful, but he wasn't perfect. The tax returns for his LLCs showed modest income. Consultation fees, advisory services, nothing that would raise red flags. But when Emily cross-referenced them with the payments she knew he'd received, from Daniel, from Gerald, from who knows how many others, the numbers didn't add up. He was underreporting by a lot. She made copies of everything, built spreadsheets showing the discrepancies, documented every payment, every date, every inconsistency. It wasn't perfect. She didn't have access to his real accounts, didn't have proof of where the money actually went, but it was enough to raise questions, enough to make someone look twice. On the 6th day before the deadline, she called the IRS tip line. Her hands shook as she dialed. She'd never done anything like this before, never reported anyone to the government. It felt wrong and right at the same time. An automated voice answered. She followed the prompts, selected the option for reporting tax fraud, was transferred to a live person. IRS Fraud Hotline, how can I help you? Emily took a breath. I have information about someone who's evading taxes. Can you provide details? She did. Gave them Marcus's name, his LLCs, the approximate amounts he'd failed to report. She didn't mention the blackmail. That would raise too many questions. Just focused on the money. The numbers. The person on the other end took notes, asked questions. Told her the information would be reviewed. How long does that take? Emily asked. It depends on the complexity of the case. Could be weeks, could be months. And if I wanted to remain anonymous? You can. We don't require names for tips. Emily gave them her burner email address, one she'd set up specifically for this, and hung up. She sat in the quiet office, staring at her phone, wondering if she'd just made things better or worse. Daniel appeared in the doorway. Did you do it? Yeah. And now we wait, Emily said. But we're not waiting for them to act. We're waiting to make Marcus think they're already acting. Daniel frowned. How? Emily turned to her laptop. We send him a message, something that looks official, something that makes him think the IRS is already looking into him. That's fraud, Daniel said. No, Emily corrected. Fraud would be impersonating a government official. We're not doing that. We're just planting a seed. Emily, do you have a better idea? She looked at him. Because I'm open to suggestions. Daniel didn't answer. Emily pulled up a blank document and started typing. She'd spent enough time looking at official IRS correspondence to know what it looked like. The formatting, the language. She didn't copy it exactly. That would be illegal, but she got close. When she finished, she had a letter that looked semi-official. It referenced an ongoing review of Greystone Advisory's tax filings. It didn't threaten, didn't accuse, just stated that certain discrepancies had been flagged and would be examined further. She printed it on plain paper. No letterhead, no signature, nothing that could be traced back to her. Then she put it in an envelope and addressed it to Marcus's P.O. box. You really think this will work? Daniel asked. I think it's worth a shot, Emily said. She drove to the post office and mailed it. Well, 3 days before the deadline, Marcus called. Emily was in the barn with Oliver, watching him brush Biscuit, when her phone buzzed. She saw the number and her stomach dropped. I need to take this, she told Oliver. Is it Dad? No, work stuff. She walked outside and answered, "Hello? We need to talk." Marcus's voice was tight, angry. "About what?" "You know damn well what." Emily's heart pounded. "I don't know what you mean." "The IRS letter," Marcus snapped. "That was you." Emily forced herself to stay calm. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't play games with me, Emily. You reported me." "Did I?" Emily said. "Or did someone else finally notice what you've been doing?" Marcus was silent for a moment, then, "You're making a mistake." "Am I?" Emily said. "Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you're the one with a problem. The IRS doesn't take kindly to tax evasion." "I haven't evaded anything." "Then you've got nothing to worry about," Emily said. "I'm sure they'll clear everything up when they audit you." "There's no audit," Marcus said. But there was uncertainty in his voice now. Just a hint, but it was there. "You sure about that?" Emily asked. "Because I heard they don't always announce audits right away. Sometimes they just start digging, quietly. And by the time you know what's happening, it's too late." "You're bluffing." "Maybe," Emily said. "But are you willing to bet on it?" Silence. Emily pressed on. "Here's what I think, Marcus. I think you've been running this scam for years. I think you've made a lot of money. And I think you've been very careful not to report most of it. Because if you did, people would ask questions. They'd wonder where all that money came from. And you can't exactly tell them it's from blackmail. You can't prove any of that." "I don't have to," Emily said. "The IRS will. And when they do, you're done. Not just with Daniel, with everyone." Marcus's breathing was audible now, sharp, angry. "What do you want?" he asked finally. Emily's chest tightened. This was it, the moment everything hinged on. "I want you to walk away," she said. "From Daniel, from this ranch, from all of it. You give back the money you've taken, and you disappear. No more payments, no more threats. You're done." "That's not happening." "Then enjoy your audit," Emily said. "I'm sure it'll be a fun experience." "You're insane." "Probably," Emily said. "But I'm also serious." "You've got 48 hours to decide. After that, I make another call. And this time, I won't be anonymous." She hung up before he could respond. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to sit down on a hay bale. Her heart was racing. Her breath came in short gasps. She'd just threatened a man who'd been destroying lives for years. A man who had more power, more resources, more experience than she could ever hope to have. And she had no idea if it would work. Daniel found her 20 minutes later, still sitting on the hay bale, staring at nothing. "Oliver said you got a phone call," he said. "It was Marcus." Daniel went still. "What did he say?" "He knows about the IRS tip, or at least he thinks he does. He's scared." "Scared enough to back off?" "I don't know," Emily admitted. "I gave him 48 hours to decide. Either he walks away, or I report him for real, with my name attached." Daniel sat down next to her. "Emily, you can't do that. If he finds out you're the one who reported him, then he finds out," Emily said. I'm not backing down. Not now." "This isn't your fight." She looked at him. "Yes, it is. You made it my fight the moment you offered me that job, the moment you gave me a chance when nobody else would. I'm not letting him take that away." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I don't want you getting hurt because of me." "Too late," Emily said. "I'm already in this, and I'm seeing it through." They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Daniel reached over and took her hand. His fingers were warm, rough from work, steady. "Thank you," he said quietly. Emily squeezed his hand. "Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive the next 2 days." Marcus didn't call back that night, or the next day. Emily spent the time preparing for the worst. She copied all of her files, everything she had on Marcus, on Gerald, on the payments, and sent them to 3 different email addresses: her own, Daniel's, and Sarah Chen's. If something happened to her, if Marcus tried something, at least the information would survive. She also wrote a detailed summary of everything she'd found, every transaction, every connection, every piece of evidence. She printed it out and put it in a sealed envelope with instructions to open it if she didn't check in within a week. Daniel thought she was being paranoid. She thought she was being smart. On the morning of the deadline, Emily woke up at 5. Couldn't sleep, couldn't think, Just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if today was the day everything fell apart. She got up, made coffee, and sat in the office watching the sun rise. At 9 o'clock, her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "We need to meet. Today. Noon. Same coffee shop." Emily's heart stopped. She showed the message to Daniel. "It's him," she said. "Could be a trap." "Probably is," Emily said, "but I'm going anyway." "Not alone. You're not." "Daniel, I'm coming with you," Daniel said. His voice left no room for argument. "If he's going to make his move, he's going to have to go through both of us." Emily wanted to argue, wanted to tell him to stay here, stay safe, protect Oliver. But she didn't, because the truth was she was terrified of facing Marcus alone. "Okay," she said. "We go together." Well, the coffee shop was quieter this time. Fewer people, less noise. Emily wondered if Marcus had planned it that way. They sat at the same table as before, waited. At exactly noon, Marcus walked in. He looked different, tired, older. The smooth confidence he usually wore was frayed at the edges. He sat down without a word. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Marcus said, "You win." Emily blinked. "What?" "You win," Marcus repeated. He pulled an envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table. "That's a cashier's check. $347,000. Everything I took from Daniel, plus interest." Daniel stared at the envelope like it might explode. "Why?" Emily asked. Marcus laughed bitterly. "Because you were right. The IRS did start looking into my accounts. Got a letter yesterday. Official letter. They want documentation going back 5 years." Emily's heart skipped. "They're auditing you?" "Preliminary review," Marcus corrected. "But yeah, someone flagged my filings. Wonder who that could have been." He looked directly at Emily. She didn't flinch. "So you're walking away," she said. "I'm walking away from this," Marcus said. "From Daniel, from the ranch. Because I don't need the headache. I've got bigger problems now." "What about the blackmail?" Daniel asked. "The documentation you had." Marcus pulled out another envelope, set it on the table. "Everything I had. Copies, originals, all of it. It's yours. Burn it. Keep it. I don't care. We're done." Emily picked up the envelope. It was thick, heavy. She opened it. Inside were documents, photos, contracts, everything Marcus had used to control Daniel for 4 years. She looked at Marcus. "What about Patricia? What about her? Did she help you?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Patricia's smart. She knew when to walk away. You should take notes." He stood up. "We're done here. You'll never see me again, and if I were you, I'd forget this whole thing ever happened." "Why would we do that?" Emily asked. "Because if you don't," Marcus said quietly, "and if the IRS comes asking questions about who tipped them off, your names might come up. And trust me, you don't want that kind of attention." He walked out. Emily and Daniel sat in stunned silence. Then Daniel picked up the cashier's check, stared at it. "Is this real?" he whispered. Emily took it from him, examined it. It looked legitimate. The bank logo, the watermark, everything. "I think so," she said. Daniel's hands started shaking. "He's really gone?" "I think so," Emily said again. Daniel put his head in his hands, and for the first time since she'd met him, he cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, exhausted tears of someone who'd been carrying too much for too long. Emily reached across the table and took his hand. They sat there in this coffee shop, holding hands, while the world kept moving around them. And for the first time in weeks, Emily let herself breathe. They burned the documents that night, built a fire in the fireplace at the main house, and one by one fed the papers into the flames, watched as Marcus's leverage turned to ash. Oliver was asleep upstairs. The house was quiet except for the crackling of the fire. "I still can't believe it's over," Daniel said. "It's over," Emily confirmed. Daniel looked at her. "You saved me. You know that, right? If you hadn't—" "Don't," Emily interrupted. "You would have found a way. You always do." "No," Daniel said. "I wouldn't have. I was drowning, and you pulled me out." Emily stared into the fire. "You pulled me out first." Daniel smiled faintly. I guess we're even. I guess we are. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the last of the documents burn. Then Daniel said, "What happens now?" Emily looked at him. "What do you mean?" "With you, with this job. Do you stay? Or was this just temporary?" Emily hadn't thought about it, hadn't let herself think about it, because thinking about leaving meant acknowledging that she'd started to care about this place, about Oliver, about Daniel. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Well," Daniel said, "for what it's worth, I hope you stay." Emily's chest tightened. "Yeah?" "Yeah," Daniel said. "This place is better with you in it." Emily didn't know what to say to that, so she didn't say anything, just sat there next to him, watching the fire burn. And for the first time in her life, she let herself imagine what it might be like to stop running, to stay. The first week after Marcus disappeared was strange. Emily kept expecting something to go wrong, kept checking her phone for threatening messages, kept looking over her shoulder when she walked to the office. But nothing happened. The check cleared, the documents stayed burned, and Marcus stayed gone. It felt wrong, too easy. Like the universe was playing a joke and the punchline was still coming. Daniel seemed to feel it too. He was quieter than usual, more careful, like he was afraid to believe it was really over. Oliver, on the other hand, was completely oblivious. He came home from school talking about his science project, asked Emily to help him build a volcano, and spent his evenings riding Biscuit around the property like nothing had changed, which, for him, nothing had. Emily envied that. The ability to just exist without waiting for the other shoe to drop. On the 8th day, she was in the office organizing files when Daniel walked in carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "You've been working for 6 hours straight," he said, setting 1 mug on her desk. Emily glanced at the clock. It was almost 3 in the afternoon. "Has it been that long?" "Yeah." Daniel sat down. "You don't have to work this hard anymore, you know. The crisis is over." "Old habits," Emily said. She took a sip of coffee. It was good. Daniel had figured out how she liked it. Lots of cream, 2 sugars, without her ever having to tell him. Daniel watched her for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why are you still here?" Emily set down her mug. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you solved the problem, saved the ranch, saved me. You could leave if you wanted. Find something better, something that doesn't involve living in the middle of nowhere working for a guy who almost lost everything." Emily looked at him, at the worry in his eyes that he was trying to hide. "Do you want me to leave?" "No," Daniel said immediately. "But I don't want you to stay out of obligation either. You don't owe me anything." "I know I don't owe you," Emily said. "But maybe I want to stay anyway." "Why?" It was a fair question. Emily had been asking herself the same thing for days. Why stay? She'd proven she could handle anything life threw at her, proven she was smart enough, tough enough. She could go back to the city, find a better job, start over somewhere new. But the thought of leaving made her chest hurt in a way she didn't want to examine too closely. "Because, for the first time in my life," Emily said slowly, "I feel like I'm not just surviving. I feel like I'm actually living, and I don't want to give that up." Daniel's expression softened. "You're not going to find something better?" "Better than what?" Emily asked. "A job that pays well? A boss who actually respects me? A kid who thinks I'm cool for some inexplicable reason? Yeah, Daniel. I'm really going to find better than that." A smile tugged at Daniel's mouth. "Oliver does think you're cool." "I have no idea why." "Because you're honest with him," Daniel said. "You don't talk down to him. You treat him like he's capable of understanding things. Kids appreciate that." Emily felt her face warm. "He's a good kid." "He is," Daniel agreed. "And he'd be devastated if you left." "What about you?" Emily asked. The words came out before she could stop them. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. "I'd be devastated too." The air between them shifted, became heavier. Emily's heart started beating faster. "Okay," she said quietly. "Then I'm staying." "Okay," Daniel said. They sat there for a moment, the coffee getting cold, neither of them quite sure what to do with the thing that was happening between them, but neither of them willing to walk away from it. Then Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "What?" Emily asked. "Gerald Mines just texted me. He wants to talk." Emily's stomach dropped. About what? Doesn't say. Just says it's important. Daniel typed something back. He wants to meet tomorrow at his office. Do you think Marcus? I don't know, Daniel said, but the worry was back in his eyes. Gerald's construction office was a small building on the outskirts of the city, wedged between an auto shop and a laundromat. The sign out front was faded, the parking lot cracked. Emily and Daniel walked in together. A woman at the front desk looked up. We're here to see Gerald Mines, Daniel said. He's expecting you, back office. They walked down a narrow hallway lined with blueprints and photos of completed projects. Gerald's office was at the end, door open. He was sitting at his desk, older than Emily had imagined from their phone calls. Late 50s, gray hair, tired eyes that had seen too much. Daniel Brooks, Gerald said, standing up to shake Daniel's hand. And you must be Emily. That's me, Emily said. Gerald gestured to the chairs across from his desk. Sit, please. They sat. Gerald leaned back in his chair and studied them. You two did something I couldn't do. You made Marcus back off. We got lucky, Emily said. Luck had nothing to do with it, Gerald said. I've been thinking about this for weeks. Ever since you called me, Emily, about what you did, how you did it. Why? Daniel asked. Gerald pulled out a folder, set it on the desk. Because there are others. Emily's pulse quickened. Others? Other victims, Gerald said. I started asking around, quietly. People I know in the business community, and I found 3 more. 3 other business owners who've been paying Marcus for years. Different amounts, different circumstances, but the same setup. He slid the folder across the desk. Emily opened it. Inside were names, addresses, brief summaries of each case, a restaurant owner who'd been paying Marcus for 18 months, a real estate developer who'd been trapped for 3 years, a woman who ran a small marketing firm who'd been paying for almost 5. They're all too scared to come forward, Gerald said. Same reason I was, same reason Daniel was. Marcus has documentation on all of them, proof of mistakes they made, things that could ruin them if they went public. So why are you telling us this? Emily asked. Because Marcus isn't gone, Gerald said. He's just gone from you. But he's still bleeding these people dry, and if someone doesn't stop him, he'll keep doing it forever. Daniel's jaw tightened. What do you want us to do? I want you to help me build a real case, Gerald said. Not just one person, not just a bluff. A real, solid case with multiple victims willing to testify, something the police can't ignore. Something that puts Marcus away for good. Emily looked at Daniel. He looked back at her. That's a big ask, Daniel said slowly. I know, Gerald said. And I'm not saying it'll be easy or safe. Marcus is dangerous. He's got resources. He's got connections. But he's also human, and humans make mistakes. We just have to find them. We already found some, Emily said. The tax evasion, the unreported income. That's a start, Gerald said. But it's not enough. The IRS moves slow. We need something faster, something criminal. Like what? Daniel asked. Like proof of blackmail, Gerald said. Emails, recordings, documentation showing intent. If we can get that, we can take it to the district attorney, make them press charges. Emily's mind was already racing. Have you talked to the other victims? 2 of them, Gerald said. They're interested, but scared. They want to know there's a real plan before they commit. What about the 3rd? Gerald's expression darkened. She killed herself 3 months ago. Her family doesn't know why. But I'm guessing Marcus had something to do with it. The room went silent. Emily felt something cold settle in her chest. A woman was dead. Because of Marcus. Because no one had stopped him. We'll help, she heard herself say. Daniel looked at her. Emily? We'll help, she repeated. She looked at Gerald. What do you need from us? Building a case against Marcus took 2 months. 2 months of late nights, secret meetings, encrypted emails. 2 months of Emily coordinating with Gerald, with Sarah Chen, with the other victims. 2 months of collecting evidence, organizing documentation, preparing testimony. Daniel wanted her to stop, wanted her to walk away before she got in too deep. But Emily couldn't. Not after learning about the woman who'd died. Not after seeing the fear in the other victims' eyes when they talked about what Marcus had done to them. This wasn't just about saving Daniel anymore. It was about making sure Marcus couldn't hurt anyone else. The restaurant owner, a man named Carlos, had recordings. He'd been secretly recording his meetings with Marcus for over a year, just in case. The recordings were damning. Marcus explicitly threatening to go public with Carlos's immigration status if he didn't pay. Marcus bragging about how many people he had under his thumb. The real estate developer, a woman named Linda, had emails. Dozens of them. Marcus outlining exactly what he'd do if she stopped paying, where he'd send the information, who he'd contact. The marketing firm owner, Diane, had bank statements showing years of payments. Statements that proved Marcus had been systematically draining her business. Together, it was enough. Sarah Chen reviewed everything. She brought in a criminal defense attorney she trusted. They assembled the case like a puzzle, each piece fitting into the next. And when they were ready, they took it to the district attorney. Emily didn't go to the meeting with the DA. That was for the lawyers and the victims. But she waited at Sarah's office with Daniel, drinking terrible coffee and trying not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. What if they don't take it seriously? She asked. They will, Daniel said. You've given them everything. They'd be idiots not to pursue this. Idiots are everywhere. True, Daniel admitted, but Sarah's smart. She knows how to make them listen. Emily paced. She couldn't sit still, couldn't stop her brain from running through worst-case scenarios. What if Marcus found out they were building a case before the DA could act? What if he ran? What if he came after them? Daniel caught her hand as she passed. Stop. I can't. Yes, you can, Daniel said. He pulled her down into the chair next to him. You've done everything you can. Now you have to trust that it's enough. I'm not good at trust. I know, Daniel said, but you're getting better at it. Emily wanted to argue, but she couldn't because he was right. 3 months ago, she wouldn't have trusted anyone with anything, wouldn't have let herself rely on people, wouldn't have let herself believe that things could actually get better. But Daniel had changed that. This place had changed that. She'd learned to trust. And maybe that was the scariest thing of all. The door opened. Sarah walked in, followed by Gerald and the other victims. Their expressions were unreadable. Emily stood up. Well? Sarah smiled. The DA's filing charges. Multiple counts of extortion, blackmail, and fraud. They're issuing a warrant for Marcus's arrest. Emily's knees went weak. They believed us? They believed the evidence, Sarah said. You built a solid case, Emily. They couldn't ignore it. Gerald walked over and shook her hand. You did it. We did it, Emily corrected. All of us. Carlos, Linda, and Diane were crying. Relief, probably. Or exhaustion. Or both. Daniel put his arm around Emily's shoulders. She leaned into him, feeling like her legs might give out. Is it really over? She asked quietly. Yeah, Daniel said. It's really over. Marcus was arrested 2 days later. Emily found out from a news article Sarah sent her. Former consultant arrested on multiple extortion charges. No bail. Trial pending. She read the article 3 times, just to make sure it was real. Daniel found her sitting on the porch of the main house, staring at her phone. You okay? He asked. I don't know, Emily said honestly. I thought I'd feel, I don't know, relieved, happy. What do you feel? Emily thought about it. Tired. Really, really tired. Daniel sat down next to her. That's fair. You've been running on adrenaline for 3 months. Longer than that, Emily said. More like 3 years. Then maybe it's time to stop running, Daniel said. Emily looked at him. And do what? Live, Daniel said simply. Be here. Not because you're solving a problem or fighting a battle, just because you want to. I don't know how to do that. Neither did I, Daniel said, but I'm learning. We can figure it out together. Emily's chest tightened. Together? Daniel took her hand. If you want. I want, Emily said, and she meant it. 6 months later, Emily stood in the office looking at spreadsheets that actually made sense. The ranch's finances were in order. The debt was paid off. They were even turning a profit. It felt surreal. Oliver burst through the door, backpack flying. Emily, Dad said you might come to my game tonight. Did he now? Emily glanced at Daniel, who was leaning in the doorway, trying to look innocent. I might have mentioned it, Daniel said. Can you come? Oliver asked. Please? We're playing the championship game and Jake said his whole family's coming and I really want you there. Emily pretended to think about it. I don't know. I've got a lot of work to do. Oliver's face fell. But I guess the work can wait, Emily added quickly. Yeah, I'll be there. Oliver whooped and ran out of the office, probably to tell everyone within a 5-mile radius. Daniel walked over and kissed her. Not the first time he'd done it, but it still made her heart skip. You're getting soft, he said. Shut up, Emily said, but she was smiling. You love that kid. Maybe. You love me too, Daniel said. Emily looked up at him. Yeah, I do. Good, Daniel said, because I love you too, and Oliver loves you, and Biscuit probably loves you, though it's hard to tell with horses. Emily laughed, actually laughed. This is insane. You know that, right? 6 months ago, I was living in a terrible apartment, working 3 jobs and sleeping on a stranger's shoulder on a train. And now? Now I'm standing in an office on a ranch in the middle of nowhere with a guy I accidentally fell asleep on and his kid who thinks I'm cool for some reason. It's a good story, Daniel said. It's a weird story, Emily corrected. The best ones usually are. Emily thought about that, about how her life had changed because of one moment, one decision, one stranger who'd chosen not to walk away when he could have. You saved my life, she said quietly. No, Daniel said. You saved mine. I just gave you a place to land. And I gave you your future back. Yeah, Daniel said. You did. They stood there in the quiet office, holding each other, while outside Oliver's voice carried across the property, talking to Biscuit about the upcoming game. Emily had spent her whole life running. From jobs, from people, from anything that felt too good to be real. But standing here, in this place, with this man, with this weird little family they'd accidentally built, she realized something. She didn't want to run anymore. She wanted to stay. Gumped. That evening at the soccer field, Emily sat on the blanket next to Daniel, watching Oliver run up and down the grass with more enthusiasm than skill. The game was tied 2-2 with 5 minutes left. Parents were screaming, kids were crying, coaches were losing their minds. It was chaos. Emily loved it. He's going to score, Daniel said confidently. You say that every game. And one of these days I'll be right. Oliver got the ball, dodged one defender, then another, kicked it toward the goal. The ball sailed wide. Next time, Daniel said. Emily laughed. 2 minutes later, Oliver's teammate scored. The game ended 3-2. Oliver's team won. The celebration was loud and messy and perfect. Oliver ran over to them, grass-stained and grinning. Did you see that? He asked. Did you see Chris's goal? We saw it, Emily said. It was amazing. I almost scored too. You did, Daniel said. Next game you'll get it. Oliver hugged them both. I'm glad you guys were here. We're always here, Daniel said. And he meant it. Later that night, after Oliver was asleep and the house was quiet, Emily and Daniel sat on the porch watching the stars. You ever think about that morning? Daniel asked. The train? Sometimes, Emily said. I think about how close I came to missing it. If I'd slept through my alarm. If I'd taken a different car. If you'd been sitting somewhere else. Lot of ifs. Yeah. You believe in fate? Daniel asked. Emily considered it. I believe in choices. You could have woken me up at my stop, could have left me at the end of the line, could have decided I was too much trouble. But you didn't. Best decision I ever made, Daniel said. Even with all the Marcus stuff? Especially with the Marcus stuff, Daniel said. You saved me. Saved this place. Saved Oliver from growing up watching his dad get crushed under something he couldn't fight. We saved each other, Emily said. Daniel pulled her closer. Yeah, we did. They sat there in the darkness, 2 people who'd found each other by accident and chosen each other on purpose. 2 people who'd been drowning in their own ways and pulled each other to shore. Emily thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, exhausted, broke, barely holding on. She thought about how much had changed, how much she'd changed. "I'm happy," she said, surprised by the realization. "Good," Daniel said. "You deserve it." "So do you." "Then I guess we both got lucky." Emily looked up at the stars, at the vast infinite sky above the ranch, at the life she'd stumbled into and fought to keep. "Yeah," she said. "I guess we did." Right. A year later, Emily stood in the office. Her office, really, since Daniel had officially made her co-owner of the ranch, reviewing the quarterly reports. They were good, better than good. The ranch was thriving. They'd hired 2 more staff members, expanded the operations, started breeding horses. It was almost unrecognizable from the struggling operation she'd walked into. Oliver burst through the door. He was 8 now, taller, still asking a million questions. "Emily, can we go riding after dinner?" "Maybe," Emily said. "Did you finish your homework?" "Most of it." "All of it," Emily corrected. Oliver groaned. "Fine, all of it." He ran back out. Daniel appeared in the doorway. "You're good at that." "At what?" "Being a parent." Emily's chest tightened. "I'm not his parent." "You kind of are," Daniel said. "And before you argue, he told his teacher last week that he has 2 people who take care of him, me and you." Emily didn't know what to say to that. Daniel walked over and put a small box on her desk. "What's this?" Emily asked. "Open it." She opened it. Inside was a ring. Simple, beautiful, exactly something she would have chosen for herself. Her heart stopped. "Daniel," "I know this is fast," Daniel said. "I know we've only been together a year, but I also know I don't want to spend another day without knowing you're going to stay, for real. Not just because you feel obligated or because the job is good, but because you want this, us, all of it." Emily stared at the ring, at this man who'd given her everything when she had nothing, who'd trusted her when she didn't trust herself, who'd built a life with her that she never thought she deserved. "I'm a mess," she said. "So am I," Daniel said. "I don't know how to do this." "Neither do I," Daniel said. "But we'll figure it out, like we always do." Emily looked up at him, at the hope in his eyes, at the future he was offering. "Ask me," she said. Daniel smiled. "Emily Harper, will you marry me?" "Yes," Emily said. "Yeah. Yes." He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. They kissed, and somewhere in the back of her mind, Emily thought about the woman who'd fallen asleep on a train, the woman who'd woken up in a stranger's house terrified and angry, the woman who'd almost walked away 100 times. She was glad she'd stayed. Well, the wedding was small, just family and a few close friends. Gerald came, Sarah came, Carlos, Linda, and Diane came. Even Tommy showed up, looking uncomfortable in a suit. Oliver was the ring bearer. He took the job very seriously. They got married on the ranch, under the trees, with the horses grazing in the background. It was simple and imperfect and exactly right. When Daniel kissed her, Oliver cheered so loud everyone laughed. At the reception, really just a barbecue in the backyard, Emily stood watching everyone talk and eat and celebrate. She felt Daniel's arms wrap around her from behind. "Happy?" he asked. "Terrified," Emily admitted. "But yeah, happy." "Good. I keep waiting for something to go wrong." "Nothing's going to go wrong," Daniel said. "You don't know that." "You're right," Daniel said. "But whatever happens, we'll handle it, together." Emily leaned back against him. "Together." Oliver ran over, cake frosting on his face. "Can I have another piece?" "Ask your dad," Emily said. "I'm asking both of you," Oliver said. Emily looked at Daniel. He shrugged. "One more piece," Emily said. "But that's it." Oliver grinned and ran off. "See," Daniel said. "You're already good at this." "At what?" "Being part of this family." Emily's throat tightened. "I never had a family before." "You do now," Daniel said. And standing there, on the ranch, with the sun setting and the people she loved around her, Emily finally let herself believe it. She had a family. She had a home. She had a future. All because one exhausted morning, she'd fallen asleep on a stranger's shoulder. And he'd chosen to care. Sometimes the best things in life came from the simplest acts of kindness. From someone seeing you when you thought you were invisible. From someone offering a hand when you thought you had to carry everything alone. Emily had been drowning, and Daniel had pulled her to shore. But she'd saved him too. And that, she thought, was what mattered most. Not who saved who first, but that they'd both chosen to stay, to fight, to build something together, to turn a chance meeting on a train into a lifetime. Emily looked at the ring on her finger, at the man beside her, at the boy running across the yard with cake-covered hands, and she smiled, because this, all of this, was real, and it was hers, and she was never letting it go.